And now we're moving over to the formal inauguration, and the speakers who will talk about now. And first, I would like to introduce Dr. Deborah Buehler, whom I actually met, I think it was in Stockholm 25 years ago, when she introduced me to NIDCAP. I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you, and it was great, 2 great days. Thank you. And you're a developmental psychologist from the beginning, and I know that you have been working about 40 years with NIDCAP, and that you're NIDCAP and APIB master training. And last but not least, you're now the director and president of the NIDCAP Federation International. And we are so happy that we have you here, and very welcome. And I can't say very much more. We're very honored and happy that you can be here with us here today. Please start.
Lena, thank you so very much. And yes, I very much remember meeting you those years ago. So thank you for your kind introduction. I will share my screen. You see my first slide?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. Well, greetings, everyone. I am coming to you this morning, or for your afternoon, from California. I am going to be speaking on supporting young infants and their families in the hospital. And I want to begin by thinking about, let's see, so the environment. So this is the theme of this year's conference on ultra early intervention. The infant's interaction with the environment at this critical stage of development, of truly fetal development, can change the future for that of the infant and by extension their family. You've been hearing about how the expression of genes are influenced by the environment and how interactions with the environment can change how genes express themselves. This in turn may affect health and outcomes, and for babies born very early, this will have tremendous impact on development. Whether these are positive or negative are going to depend on the caregiving environment that we provide. So we know that the healthiest, most protective environment for the developing embryo and fetus is the womb. And the biological expectation is for 9 months of protection, entrainment, and growth in this exquisitely attuned mother incubator. This environment has evolved for the sole purpose of ensuring continuity of the species. At the time of birth, healthy newborns are prepared to breathe, maintain their heart rates, tuck, grasp, and move smoothly, and to sleep soundly, cry lustily, and begin to alert with human interactions. From birth, babies expect the arms of their parents for protection, nurturance, and care. And over time, babies grow into children and then to adults, continuing to transition to ever more demands towards independence. This is how, as humans and as a species, we've adapted to optimally develop. Babies born early are displaced fetuses. They find themselves in environments with which they are not yet sufficiently equipped to cope. These environments are not biologically expected. Yet they are encountered at a point in nervous system development when factors such as gravity, temperature regulation, direct light, and loud, unmuffled sounds, and expectations as independent self-regulatory breathing, control of sleep cycles, even feeding, are difficult, if not impossible. These changes are often coupled with survival necessary yet often painful procedures. The fetus is not really an independent biological organism, yet is often alone. Every one of these experiences is extremely stressful, and many and perhaps even all of these environmental influences happen every moment of every day for premature infants in intensive care. That these influences can change gene expression and interact with infants' health and developmental progressions are understandable. And premature infants' outcomes have been extensively studied and documented. The intensive care environment impacts the futures for these hospitalized infants. So individuals are continuously in interaction with their environments, and stress is a part of the human experience. Stress may be beneficial for growth. Individuals seek out challenges which may be uncomfortable or difficult, and they do this, and in doing so, they learn new skills and gain new abilities. Stress is what drives development and growth. Yet stress may also be harmful, especially when it's too intense, too frequent, and too difficult. This is especially true for preterm infants whose brains are ill-equipped to negotiate these environmental challenges and are so rapidly developing. It's our task as stewards of the environment to determine whether the stress is manageable, necessary, and hopefully beneficial. How do we know when or whether stresses are appropriate or harmful? How can we minimize or eliminate babies' experiences of inappropriate stresses and prevent deleterious outcomes? How can we support babies' experiences of appropriate stresses and best possible outcomes? Well, the answer can be found in the NIDCAP care model. Its foundation is decades of peer-reviewed scientific evidence. It's based on a dedicated multidisciplinary approach to intensive care with the family at the center as the primary and lifelong advocate for their child. NIDCAP can guide us to understand how the environment has lifelong impact and how an approach that gives voice to the newborn can epigenetically change the future. NIDCAP is an acronym for Newborn Individualized Developmental Care and Assessment Program, and was developed at Boston Children's Hospital and the Brigham and Women's Hospital, NICU, by Hadley Zalls and her colleagues. NIDCAP offers a framework with an observational tool and a model of care, as well as a training program. At its core, NIDCAP gives the infant, who was always presumed to be the recipient, yet never the active participant, a voice. It provides a way for whole families to be nurtured and for those who care for them to be supported. The question of how to interpret infants' experiences, including stresses, their intrinsic developmental strivings, and insights into supports that may be beneficial, all stem from understanding that infants communicate, and that by minimizing or eliminating harmful stresses and building on strengths and next steps, we may support optimal healthy development. They will tell us how if we listen. So what is the best environment for a baby born prematurely? We know a lot about healthy environments for babies that are born at term, and about how the power and critical importance of that parent-infant relationship begins to unfold even before the baby is born. The best environment for premature infants or displaced fetuses is at best a work in progress. This is our challenge and the challenge of healthcare providers and researchers and families for years to come. Systems such as the visual one are activated at birth. The baby cannot go back into the womb, yet what is each preterm baby biologically expecting and prepared to experience as their development unfolds outside of the womb? Fetuses have unfolding developmental competencies, and how can this progression continue in a healthy way outside the womb unexpectedly? What is each baby seeking to do? How can the intensive care nursery environment support infants and parents and their unfolding relationship? And how can NICU environments become increasingly shaped to meet individual infants and their families' needs? So many questions. So with NIDCAP, caregivers are guided by each baby's individual voice to continuously adapt care, to minimize stress, and to support the infant's own developmental agenda. NIDCAP holds parents as the primary nurturers of their babies. As babies and their parents remain connected from before birth through the time in the hospital and later with their transitions home, relationships unfold in different yet supported ways. This is the scaffolding for developmental stability. And returning to the epigenetic topic, should offer the baby's genes the best way to express themselves and to guide the developing biosystem. Learning to interpret and to trust the baby's communications, physical and caregiving environments can be tailored to minimize stress and enhance strengths and efforts. NIDCAP professionals bring this orientation to their work. They are trained to observe infants very closely and to articulate infants' experiences of their nursery spaces and of their care. NIDCAP professionals offer recommendations for the family healthcare team to support emerging competencies and to reduce stresses, while simultaneously offering support for families and the whole hospital system. Here is an example of the NIDCAP approach. Henry was carefully observed by a NIDCAP professional. In 2-minute increments, she noted Henry's breathing, heart rate changes, movements, and sleep wakefulness, and more. She did this before, during, and after his care, including his gavage tube feeding. This page represents, the page on the left, represents 10 minutes from a 60-minute observation. With check marks for behavioral scene, this information will be used as a guide to summarize the baby's experience during this time. Here is an excerpt from the NIDCAP report. Over a period of 9 minutes, Henry received 18 milliliters of milk. He became more and more restless throughout his feeding and made many efforts to bring his hands to his mouth, tried to get his thumb into his mouth, and eventually succeeded to suck on his fingers. With that, he settled his heart rate back into a range of 160 beats a minute. As the feeding continued, Henry gagged and grimaced, drew back his upper lip, and seemed to indicate that the feeding tasted bad to him. So this type of information will be used to make recommendations for support. Based on the NIDCAP observation, considerations for pacing, pausing, and general support around Henry's feedings were offered for the family and the healthcare professionals in the development of their ongoing care plan. These seemingly simple supports, when integrated into care throughout the day, each day, support emerging strengths and become the scaffolding for positive developmental trajectories. NIDCAP observations offer ideas and strategies to support infant stability and behavior and overall development, as well as each family's integral participation. In this way, NIDCAP ensures that the infant is an active partner in their own care and relationships, and everyone works from the same perspective, listening to and respecting one another's voices. Preterm infants are very rapidly growing, and this growth proceeds with the experience that they have throughout each day. One can see how little moments of support and interaction make a difference for them. Imagine if a preterm infant's whole days were filled with support, relaxation, and nurturance, for this is how to make the most significant difference for stability and healthy outcomes. Imagine if parents felt consistently nurtured and supported, for this will support their confidence and competence as parents and their understandings of their babies, which will have lasting effects. NIDCAP care needs to be provided as part of the infant and family's experience every day, all day, from before birth, if possible, to the first day, to the transition home. NIDCAP needs to be embedded in the culture of the intensive care nursery in every way. This is what NIDCAP nurseries strive to do. The NIDCAP Nursery Program Manual offers a guide for how to integrate NIDCAP care into intensive and special care settings. 121 scales cover aspects from care of the physical environment to the philosophy and care of the infant, the family, and for healthcare professionals themselves. For example, here's an excerpt of how well-integrated NIDCAP care for infant holding could be realized. Parents consistently and for prolonged periods, often 24 hours, hold their infant skin to skin based on the infant's cues and desires and the parent's wishes. The scale goes on to offer more examples and details that could be used for guidance for integrating NIDCAP care. All aspects of the intensive nursery experience need to be considered because all experience matters. Thoughtful attention for support to every aspect of the infant and family's experience and to the healthcare professionals who care for them need to be given. Nurseries that achieve this level of consistently well-integrated NIDCAP care are recognized as certified NIDCAP nurseries. Sometimes it's helpful to look back to see the progression that led us to where we are. Over the decades, tremendous strides have been made to incorporate developmental care into intensive care, including parents being increasingly supported as the primary nurturers of their infants. As a marker of the way changes are unfolding, note the types and usages of chairs for families in these images over 20-year increments. 40 years ago, a few hard rocking chairs often sat unused around the nursery. 20 years ago, chairs were available to be pulled over by parents to their infants' bed spaces that were somewhat comfortable for relatively short periods of holding. At this time, comfortable reclining chairs are increasingly being integrated into each infant and family's nursery space for uninterrupted holding opportunities. So what will nurseries look like 20 years from now and beyond, including our furniture to support parents and infants with one another? Over time, the NIDCAP approach will increasingly help to shift the way care is delivered in intensive care to become ever more supportive and nurturing, and ultimately lead to realizing potentials with best outcomes for babies and their families. Together, we're shaping what is possible to provide the most appropriate, best possible extrauterine environment for early born infants and their families. There is a universality of newborn behavior and of belongingness of babies with their families. So giving a voice for premature and medically ill young infants resonates with families and those that care for them around the world. This is why the NIDCAP model of care transcends the borders of countries and continents. An approach which began in the United States in one hospital has grown to reach around the world. The very first country to adopt NIDCAP care and develop their own training program outside of the United States was in Sweden. NIDCAP was a natural fit because of this country's prioritization of the nurturance of families. Now in 2022, NIDCAP training programs extend to 17 countries from 5 continents with 28 NIDCAP training centers. To oversee the quality and growth of the NIDCAP model and its training program, the NIDCAP Federation International was formed. The NFI envisions a global society in which all hospital newborns and their families receive care in the evidence-based NIDCAP model. We do this through our education, our training, mentorship, and support programs. Our global community of NIDCAP professionals and supporters are our greatest resource. We are continuing to evolve our model of care, our outreach, and our materials. If you would like to learn more about NIDCAP, the NFI, and our training programs, please visit nidcap.org. So this past weekend, the NFI celebrated its 40th anniversary with a World NIDCAP Day Benefit Gala. We raised awareness for the importance of NIDCAP care, as well as funds to create educational resources. Our members honored NIDCAP by hosting parent and staff events, bridge lightings in the NIDCAP teal color, shared our NIDCAP Care Around the World poster, and so much more. This was our 4th year celebrating World NIDCAP Day, and with each year our celebration and the awareness of NIDCAP grows, and we're continuing to honor NIDCAP throughout this month of March. So from the most recent edition of the NFI's Developmental Observer, a family's experience being cared for in the Astrid Lindgren's Children's Hospital at Karolinska University Hospital was shared. The parents said, "To be able to carry a child is a gift. Giving birth in Sweden is a privilege. To be cared for according to NIDCAP is beyond everything." Today, we are celebrating the official opening of Sweden's 2nd training center, which will create even more opportunities to bring NIDCAP care to ever more infants and their families. So welcome to the Lund Malmo NIDCAP Training Center. The new training center is affiliated with Skane University Hospital, which includes the Lund University and Malmo hospitals. And for those of you that may not know, this center is located in the very most southern part of Sweden.